Hi people, Telly here, and I have my tea, so you know what that means? It's another episode of Tea Time. This is going to be a review of The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire by Dan Howell and Phil Lester. For those of you who aren't aware, I am a massive fan of these two YouTubers. I've been subscribed for years, so when I found out that they were making a book, I was so excited. By the time I finished reading this, I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars on GOODREADS. Overall opinions of this book, I really enjoyed it. If you're a fan of Dan and Phil's videos or just them as people, I think you'll really enjoy this book. This book is kind of like if you take Dan and Phil's videos and sprinkle their personalities on top and cram it together, you'll get this book. I'm not gonna spoil anything, just a quick view of these pages. It's kind of like a scrapbook. That's how I describe it. It's like a scrapbook that chronicles both Dan and Phil's lives, as well as their YouTube videos and their randomness. And you have pictures and cool pages to go along with everything. I will say that one of the reasons why I ended up giving this book 4 to 5 stars instead of 5 out of 5 stars is just because I felt like I knew a lot of the information that was already in this book. Which I know is probably an outlier for most people. Since I've been following Dan and Phil for so long, I know everything that's public about them. I've seen all their videos, I watch their live shows, I follow them on all the social media stuff, so I know a lot about Dan and Phil. And a lot of the pages in this book, we're just kind of rehashing what is already about them online. So for example, there's a page in the book that is reasons why Phil was a weird kid, and also reasons why Dan's a fail. And they were all just word for word video titles or ideas that were in the videos. So on those pages, I knew everything that was listed because I watched those videos. And it's not just those pages, it is quite a few pages where stories are being retold again, only in book format. However, there also was a lot of really random stuff that came along with everything. They also did talk a bit more about their lives before YouTube, and funny things like this. It's not really much of a spoiler, but it's Phil's graduation photo right next to Dan's letter saying that he's officially dropped out of university. So there's little quirks like that I really enjoyed. But I will say my favorite things about this book was the stuff I didn't know, or little quirks that are just specifically for this book. There's a section of this book, they do it twice, called Going Deep, and it's supposed to be kind of like those deep conversations you have with people at 2, 3 a.m. and you're just opening your mind and saying whatever comes. So they talked about how they think the world's gonna end and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed those pages. The other section I really enjoyed was the room assessment forms, and they just rate each other as roommates. I'm sorry if you hear any noise in the background. My brother's watching TV quite loudly. But yeah, I really liked these sections. It was so simple, but I liked it. Maybe I'm just nosy and like knowing things about people, but I really liked it. Another section I didn't think I'd like, but I actually really enjoyed, was the fan fictions that they wrote for this book. Both Dan and Phil wrote their own fan fictions, and they were really good. Especially Dan's. He can write. Overall, I liked the book as a fan. I am a fan of Dan and Phil, and I feel like this book was a bit more like fan service. Everything that Dan and Phil have online is compressed into this book, plus a little bit added. And that's exactly how they marketed this book, by the way. They wanted this book to be in case the internet ever gets deleted, there's still proof of everything they did, and you can still physically look back at everything they've accomplished. Which is exactly what this book is. However, if you don't know who Dan and Phil are, have never seen their videos, never heard of them, listened to the radio show, whatever, I don't see that kind of person liking this book. It is very much Dan and Phil. And if a random person was to pick up this book and read it, I think they'd be really confused and maybe even freaked out. Or maybe they're interested and want to go watch their videos. I don't know. But coming from a fan's perspective, I really like this book. I think I would have liked it more if it was more filled with things I didn't know about them, rather than everything I already knew from their videos. But it's still a really nice book, and I do not regret buying it at all. There is a lot of really great things in this book, and there's also some things I don't like about this book. But I do feel like if you like Dan and Phil's videos, or Dan and Phil as people, then I think you'll like this book. Their personalities are so strong in this book, and who they are in their videos is exactly who they are while writing. So if you know who Dan and Phil are, or if you're interested to know more about them, I would recommend picking up this book. But if you don't know them, keep an open mind. Anyway, that's it for this review. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please make sure to give it a like if you like, and subscribe, and that's it. So I'm gonna go. Bye!
Thanks for watching. Imagine Workshop is awesome. Would you like to subscribe? You've got mail. See you next time.